Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm coming to you from the library. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a welcome. So hello, my name is Miss Woods. I currently am a Vice Principal at Harris Goward, and I have been leading on an AR, which is a new reading initiative that we have developed and introduced at the school. So while we wait for a couple more people just to arrive, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of our library. So hopefully the children have talked to you and said about all the incredible new kind of library situation that we have going on at Harris Goward. So what I'd like you to do, sir, can you make me some, I'm the big person. Am I the big person? Lovely. Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to take you on a bit of a tour. So this is our new library. When the children come to the library, this is our display outside. So we have a step into reading display, and then they have these wonderful fairy doors to come in. So they enter the library and they are greeted with lots of different zones. So, okay, we can see on this side here, when the children first start reading, they go to the level 1 area, which is like an enchanted forest area. Then they progress through into level 2. Then when they're feeling confident with their reading, they go to the back here to the Inca area, which is level 3. Then we have level 4, which is over here, which is the Egyptian area that you can see with the pyramids. Then level 5, which is our under the sea area, which is here with our octopus and our cave, with our dive into reading display. And then when children get towards the top of the school, year 5 and year 6, they've got their cool reads area. And then they have at the very back over here with Mr. Shepherd, who is our maestro for today, we've got our space area, which is the level 7 books, which are the top level books of what we take out at the school. We also have, for our safety, our book returns cupboard, which is our COVID cupboard. So all of the books are quarantined for 72 hours, which means that it's safe with government regulations when it comes to children sharing resources. So we're really proud of our new library, and I know the children absolutely love coming down here to read. So I kind of wanted to give a little bit of a tour for you today before we started, just so when they're talking about, oh, I get my books from the Egyptian section, or oh, I go to the Inca area to read, it gives you a bit of context. Right then, so if you'd like to share our PowerPoint for us today to go through all the things we're going to talk about. Okay, right. So we've started this new program called Accelerated Reader. And Accelerated Reader, thank you, sir, is a program that is really steeped in research that I'll talk through briefly about. So why AR? When children first come to school in nursery and reception, we want to teach the children how to read. We have to give them the phonetic knowledge to be able to sound out and decode words. Year 2 and above, when they moved off the read writing program, we need to teach them something else. So the children now can read independently, they can read fluently, but we need to teach the children firstly what they like to read, which is so important. So what their reading diet is going to be. And we do that through exposing them to a huge different range of authors. In our library, we have 1,600 books, and the children can choose from their range the different authors that they would like to read. You'll see later on, we'll talk through some of the authors the children are really enjoying, so you can stock up your bookshelves at home as well. Now, AR is a program which helps the children to, and the teachers really, to understand whether the children are understanding what they're reading. So we want the children to be able to choose a range of books and to be able to comprehend and understand what they're reading. Thanks, Sarah. So AR, there's lots and lots of research which tells us, thank you, all about what, sorry, I can't see the screen. No problem. You can do both. Yes, it is. Okay, thank you. So last year on the AR system, they had over 1 million children and they read over 20 million books. And this gave the adults a huge plethora, data-rich resource. And this is what they found. So they found that if children weren't exposed to the AR program, they were reading around 40% of their median. If they were using AR correctly, then this rose all the way up to 60% of the children were able to understand and to meet their daily expectations when it came to reading. And that's what we're aiming for at Harris Goward. We want to be best practice for our AR use. Thank you, sir. So how does AR work? So at the moment, we have assessed the children, or the very start of the year, we assessed for the STAR assessment baseline. So when the children came in September, they were given a baseline ZPD score that you might have seen on a bookmark that I'll show you in a minute. Then they've spent the last 6 weeks taking a book from school every single week and doing a quiz every single week. And we had in the middle of our STAR Autumn 1 assessments. So some children have already sat it. Year 4 have already sat them in Year 3, and Year 5 as well today. And tomorrow we'll have Year 6 sitting their next set of assessments to show us the progress that they have made within their reading. If you look forward to the rest of the year, they have a regular assessment cycle, and they have kind of periods where they are able to take a new story, they read for 6 weeks to 8 weeks, then they do another assessment to make sure that the book is really appropriately pitched for the children. What we don't want is a child taking a book that's too easy for them or getting a range that's too hard, because we need to make sure that the book is matched to the child's reading level. That's really, really important. So the STAR assessment is an absolutely magical piece of machinery. So there are 34 questions that the children need to answer that vary in difficulty. Some of them are based on vocabulary, some of them are, I'm not the host, and some of them are based on literacy skills. So it kind of splits between both of them. For the computer adaptive technology, that means that if a child scores and does well on their assessment, then the next question gets harder. If they don't pass that question, it means that it gets easier. So that means that every single child is given a really, really reliable score, which means that they are choosing a book from the library that is linked to what they can do and the comprehension that the comprehension level that they are appropriate for. Thank you, sir. Next one. So what does the data tell us? So hopefully you will have seen that your children have all come home with a bookmark that looks like this. So the bookmark on the bottom gives a range for ZPD, which is called a zone of proximal development. And the book level could be, for example, 2.5 to 3.5 or 2.7 to 4.7. And that means that they can choose books between that range. We would want children to be choosing books in their lower ZPD range most of the time. As we're just having a holiday, we may have persuaded your children to choose something from their upper ZPD because we want to challenge and kind of push them towards. If they are choosing one in the above ZPD, they might need to read it with you at home, but we're making sure as teachers that we're checking those sorts of books that the children are reading to make sure that they are taking a book that's really, really appropriate for them. Also on the top right, this is a chart that tells us exactly how the children are doing. So from this program, we're able to target for intervention. We're able to put different groups together to make sure that children are keep up, not catch up for different children. Thank you. So your children will have come home with a book. I'm just going to grab one quickly so I can show you. And in the book, there are this one here. I'm going to grab one of my favorites, a Biff, Chip and Kipper. And inside the book, there would have been 2 different separate pieces of information. So in this book here, you can see that there is a BL, so that means book level. Now the book level tells you the difficulty of the book. So this one here is right at the very start of their reading journey. Maybe they're in Year 2, maybe they're in Year 3, and the book level is 1.4. So that tells us that the content of the book, it's got some vocabulary words at the start, and we know that the book is going to be something the children can read with independence. It also tells us the number of points. The number of points tells you the length of the book. So it tells you if it's a 0.5 book like this one, it's going to be nice and short. If you have a book level or a points level of say 7 points or 8 points, it might be one of the longer Harry Potters that the children are choosing. Thanks, sir. So if they're talking about BLs and points, that's what it means. We also have the interest level. Now, our books don't have the interest level in at the moment because we're not a middle school. So when AR has been developed, they have lower years, middle years, and upper years. The majority of books are middle years books or lower years books for us. Upper years books could be linked to more adult themes that you typically would get in secondary school, but we don't need to worry about that. I've spoken about points at the bottom. Thank you, sir. So what does the score tell you? So your child might come home and say, oh, mum, dad, I got 100% or I got 90%. We're aiming as our academy to have a target of 80% or above. The idea behind that is we want children to challenge themselves and we want them to push themselves. So if they get 100%, we like to say that's a brilliant score, but that book was a little bit too easy. Let's try and see whether you can choose something a little bit more challenging next time. If they've got 90%, that book was perfect. So that's what we're aiming for. Now, some of the shorter books have 5 questions, which means they'll never get 90%. They might get 80 or 100, but some of the longer books have 10 questions, and some even have 20 questions when they get to level 6. So they can really try and challenge themselves. Thank you. Just one more point, so if you could just go back 1 second. If a child is scoring 60% or below, we try and keep our vocabulary as positive as possible. The reason for that is because if a child has chosen a book and it's just a little bit too hard for them, they haven't understood the vocabulary, they found it really, really challenging, that can be quite demoralizing for them. So what we try and do is say, oh, that book was a little bit too difficult. Let's see if next time we can choose something from the earlier ZPD range, which means that they can choose something a little bit more appropriate to them. We need to try and kind of differentiate between children who aren't reading at home and children who maybe just didn't score as highly because they were a little bit too conscientious. They wanted to really, really challenge themselves. So we're really trying to be careful with our vocabulary at school, and hopefully at home as well, you can reflect and mirror that. Thank you. So how do we celebrate reading? So I've already shown you the library tour at the start. So for some of you who may have come late, so we'll just get that back up for you. Thank you. So you can see that there are lots of different, it's not coming up. Thank you. Lots of different regions within our library, and we're really proud of the library that we have created. How else do we celebrate reading within the classroom? We also have our AR display. Now, all of the AR displays are completely different. And what I would love to do is kind of take lots of pictures and show you them all. But this is an example from year 5. So if the children score 90% or 100%, because remember, we're trying to push reading at the correct ZPD, they get to move their name up or move their face up on their chart. And if they get to the star at the top, then they get a special prize, which is decided by the teacher. I know in mine and Debbie's year 5 class, it will be something from our special pen pot. Maybe some teachers are having it so each time children get 100% or 90%, they put their name into a raffle, and they might be able to win a prize at the end of the term. So fingers crossed that will be your child, who knows. We also celebrate and have a little bit of competition during Celebration Assembly. So this is an example from Celebration Assembly last week. You can see all the classes are compared with their percentages and the number of points. And we compare like for like as well. So we have a big competition to see which class is going to be the highest percentage for points and the highest percentage for attainment, and then the highest number of points each week, which is very, very exciting for the children. Okay, so this has meant that, so this is a new program that's in its infancy, but as of yesterday, and I know that this has already changed, we have already read 682 books that have been passed and quizzed on, which is absolutely excellent, which is over nearly 6 million words have been read, which is such a really great achievement for us, because it means that children are taking a book every single week. They are reading, really, really great. Thank you, Sally. So can you just be muted there? Also, we have certain children that we really need to celebrate. So there are certain children who've done some very, very fantastic reading, but I can't remember who they are until Sarah goes back. So we have some children here. I know that most of them are in year 6, some of them are in year 5, but they've passed 5 quizzes, they've taken 5 quizzes, and we can see here that 230,000 words they have read since the start of the year. This is just the book they've quizzed on in AR as well. Obviously, they're reading at home as well. I just thought I'd give a shout out. If any of you are parents for these children, that's really amazing, isn't it? It's fantastic. They've read so many words. Thank you. But we need your help. So this program is new, it's not completely embedded. So where we've had most of our students, 85% of our students have quizzed, we're only at a success rate of 24% across the 6 weeks that we've been here. So we're trying to think today about how you can help us from home to make sure that every single child is reading every single day and they're able to score really highly on their quizzes. Okay, so how can you help us? I've got some questions up here that you could ask your children. So each half term, how do they do in their STAR test? What's their ZPD, their zone of proximal development? Has their reading age increased? Has their reading age got better, got higher during the 6 weeks? For most of our children, it has, which is really great to see. In each week, what was your percentage this week? Really important. Did you score 80%, 90%? How many points did you earn for your class? Having that class competition, which class won this week? Which was the best? That would be really great. Whilst they're reading, so if you see them reading at nighttime, ideally 20 to 35 minutes every single day if we can. Who's the author? Who are the characters in your story? Year 6 children, who are the protagonists? Who are the main people who your story is about? Is your book fiction or non-fiction? So if you go on to the next one for me. Thank you. If you look at the bottom here, it says, what are our children reading? In the last column, it says F or NF. Our children at the moment absolutely love fiction, and there are lots of fiction books in our library, but there's also an awful lot of non-fiction books. Every single book level has about 30 or 40 books that are non-fiction books, and they're not really liked by our children at the moment. So if you can encourage your children from home, like I can see here on this one here, Let's Go Camping, World Heritage about the Great Wall of China, that's just on our level 5 bookshelf. So if you ask your children what they're reading, it'd be really helpful. But interestingly, what are children reading on AR? So from that study I spoke about at the beginning with over 5 million words that have been read, the top author you can see here, top right, is the Diary of the Wimpy Kid author. He's still there. He's gone up 6 points from last year. David Walliams is still really popular, Roderick Hunt. And that's what our children like as well. So we've got Roald Dahl on here, just like Roald Dahl is number 4. We've got Roderick Hunt. We've got Diary of a Wimpy Kid as well. Such popular stories. And it just shows, what children are reading in the general public is what our children want to read here at Garrard, which is great to see. Thank you, sir. Okay, right. So how can we help you to help the children read? So tomorrow, each of the children will be sent home with a letter that will look something like this. Now, it's not on our Garrard letter paper because it's a mail merge that's done from AR, but I want to talk to you about exactly what the letter entails. So it will say the name of the child and then the class. It will say something about Renaissance Place. Now, AR, Accelerated Reader, has lots of different names. Children will have called it Renaissance Place, maybe they've called it RenLearn, maybe they've called it AR, maybe they've called it Accelerated Reader. Anything to do with reading is probably linked to AR. So something that we have now set up is called Renaissance Home Connect. And this is a system where you can check what your children are reading, you can check your percentage and your book level, and you can check what they're scoring for every single week in their AR test. So when you get your letter, you'll need to type in where it says website. Now, for this, you're going to have to type it out, I'm afraid, which isn't ideal because it has our specific code here. But for today, we can just click on it for you so you can see exactly what it will look like. So you're going to have to you have to go back and share your screen again for that to happen. At the moment, you're still viewing the PowerPoint. If you escape the PowerPoint, I think, possibly. Sorry, technological issues. And then if you share again, perhaps that will work. Fingers crossed. Thank you for bearing with us. Okay, can we see? Okay, right, so that's fine, just stay from there, so that's no problem. So when you log on to the letter, you will be able to click on something and it will come up, it will look something like this. So when you type in the long address that you'll have to type, I'm really sorry, it will come up at the top. So you'll type in Renaissance and then Home Connect, and then we're going to pretend to log in as a child. So this is a year 5 child who is wonderful, which is why we've chosen her. So you'll type in your username and your password that's on the letter specific to your child, and then click login. And hopefully school internet will work and not be really, really slow. Fingers crossed. Hopefully. There we go. And it will come up with something that looks like this. So this tells you the number of quizzes. So you can see that this child has got 100% in their quizzes, which means they're above target. It will tell you the total number of points since they started AR. So we've been on AR 6 weeks now, and they've scored 20 points. Their average book level is a 4.7, which is fantastic. So they're reading at the moment in our orange area, which is our Egyptian area, which is fantastic. When you log in, over the half term and in the first couple of weeks back, we're going to be setting targets. So where it says current target, no target set, we will have a reading target. Our reading target is to score 85%, and our points target is linked to the ZPD that I spoke about earlier for your child. So it'll be linked to their ability level and how much they can comprehend. Also on this, we have, thank you, sir, View My Bookshelf. And if you click on View My Bookshelf, it will bring up all the books that your child has read and quizzed on, scoring over 85% over the last 6 weeks. If it works, hopefully, fingers crossed. There we go. So you will see Jodie. The reason why I chose Jodie is because in a second when they load, Jodie absolutely loves the oh, it's not loading. It's all of the Dork Diary books. She loves them. They're all Dork Diaries. Every single one that she has chosen. Hopefully your internet will be better than mine. And it will tell you exactly all the different books they have read. You can also sort by date taken, so it tells you the ones they read first and the ones they read most recently. Thanks, Sir. The other thing that we need to show you, it's still on that screen, is how you set up your email. So if you just click done for me at the top, can you see on the left? So where it says email setup, if you would like to receive an email each week that tells you how your child has done on their test, if you type in your first name there, then your email, and then your email again and click add, this will send you an automatic email to your email address. So Jodie did a test today, and her parent will have got, when they sign up, an email that says exactly what she scored. It will tell her the percentage, etc. So if you did do this, this will be an excellent way for you to be able to track exactly how the children have been doing in school and in real time. And that means you can have that conversation. If they come home and say, yeah, I got 100%, you could be like, oh, did you? Let's check your bookshelf. So we're going to make sure that we share this with all the children tomorrow as well, so they can get really excited about this. At the top where it says that we only do reading practice quizzes at the moment, vocabulary practice quizzes is something we would like to introduce as well, where the children become a little bit more confident and fluent. And all it does is it picks out 10 words from the story that the children might need to know and might need to kind of put into their lexicon, into their memory for words. And that's something that we can set up when the children become a little bit more quick and more used to using the AR process to do their quiz. Thank you, sir. So every child will be sent home with a letter that will look like this tomorrow. So I really hope that you can kind of engage with that, because that would be fantastic. If you just go on to the next one for me. Okay, right, so I've just spoken through this and this, which is great. Okay, the last thing, so when I upload this onto the internet, onto the school, what do you call it, sir? The school website, there are also going to be 2 different parent guides that I will upload. One of them is called the Parent's Guide to Accelerated Reader, and there's another one that is another parent guide, which is really similar, that tells you more step by step all the different things you can do to help. I'll also put a link to the Renaissance website. They've got so many different kind of videos on there and training things on there as well, and how to get children to kind of read more through for pleasure, which would be really, really helpful, because that's what we want them to do, to read by themselves. Okay, so that was a massively whistle-stop tour of AR. I wonder if anyone has any questions. I can see there are a couple of questions on the chat already. If I can get those up. Okay, my child does not yet have his bookmark. So I can apologize, Lisa, that should have gone out already. They are quite flimsy, so it might have been that it's been misplaced. I will make sure that everybody now, the teachers have done a new assessment, so any of their updated bookmarks will be sent home with them. Probably it'll be the first week back after half term, so everybody will have a bookmark with that ZPD range. If for whatever reason your child might lose their bookmark or misplace their bookmark, just ring up the office, let them know, and then we can get a new one reissued for them. Does anybody else have any other questions about reading or about AR? If you want to put them in the chat or raise your hand, I can see Teresa has raised her hand. Teresa, could you write yours in the chat for me? I think that might, or you can unmute her. Oh, brilliant. If you can unmute her, we can have some parents talk. How exciting. Sorry, getting used to all this. Ah, yes, I hadn't said that. Thank you so much. The Year 2 children at the moment, as soon as they come off the Read Write Ink program, then they will be involved in this program. So when they are off Read Write Ink, so when they finish grey books, then we know that they're confident and they're able to read. So we will make sure that year 2 children will go on as and when. I know that there is one group who is already off, and there is another group who's coming off after half term, Mr. Butcher has told me. So fingers crossed, you will get your letters soon and they will be starting their AR journey, which will be really, really great to see. And I know they're going to be coming to the library every Friday, so they will have their library time as well, which will be really, really fantastic. For the read writing for year 2, your children will continue to have book bag books until they are ready to come and choose for the library from themselves. Anybody else, any questions about, should I try and see if, oh, I can't unmute. Okay, so the interest level is, if children are middle years or lower years, it just tells you what sort of kind of information is in the text. So for example, this text is a very low book. I'm just going to grab you another one as an example so you can see. Okay, so we are now, imagine that you are a year 5 child and you are in orange books, so you're on a level 4. So this book is called Checkmate, and it's a Mallory Blackman book, but it contains adult themes. So this is talking about about a family's past. It's talking about relationships. So this is a middle years book. I'm going to compare it to. Okay, here we are. Super Saver Mouse. Also in orange band, but we can see here that it's completely different. It's about a tube mouse. So this is a lower years book. So even though they are on the same book level, they're still in the level 4 book level, we can see that this one has more middle years themes and this one has more lower year themes. So that's what the interest level means. Okay, so we've got one here. Is it possible to have all discussed today sent home? Yes, the letters will be going home tomorrow. The video will be going on the website, so you'll be able to watch again. For anybody else who's missed it, or if you'd like to rewatch our technological difficulties, then it will all go onto the website, and there'll be a news article that's published to say where you can access that from. My child is in quarantine, so how is she going to get the books? Okay, so because if you're self-isolating, then the recommendation is to make sure that you protect this right, sir, to make sure you're staying at home. And you can call the school, you can call reception, and we can organise you to get a book for your child for that time. So it might be that you need to take one larger book for that time for the 2 weeks that you need to be at home. That's absolutely fine. So if you call up reception, when they pick up their work pack, they can also pick up their book that's linked to their ZPD. I'll just read it, sir. Lovely. So if their child doesn't finish their book, does it count? Okay, so our expectation is that every child needs to try and read one book a week. So it's completely up to the child, and with the support of the teacher. You can see here that I've got an orange book here that is around, I can see 70 pages. I also have an orange book that's 400 pages. So it's making sure the children are becoming more and more skilled to be able to choose books that are really suitable for them. So hopefully they will be able to finish their book. The expectation is that they can choose a book that they can complete in the week. So there's no pressure to take a longer book, but as much as we can, we want them to be reading every single day for half an hour, which should equate to around 50 pages, depending on how quick the children read. If they have a low score on AR, then we'll encourage them to choose a book that's higher up in that, lower down, sorry, in that ZPD, so they're a little bit more confident. And that means that they will be able to choose a book that they'll be able to be successful in, because that's what we want at the end of the day. We want the children to be reading and to be successful on their score. But if they get under 85%, then it won't contribute to their points total. I'm afraid it's only if they get over 85%, then they pass. Do we have a say in the books they pick? Do we have access to their library? So this is a really exciting something we're trying to set up. So we've set up a new library system so children can scan in and scan out their books. We're hoping we can try and get it set up so you can browse them from home. So that would be really, really exciting if we can get that sorted. With extra clubs and tutoring outside of my school, my child can't always finish a whole book, so the scores look really bad. Okay, so I'm thinking for Lisa, if you make sure your child, if they come home with a book that's too long for them and you know you've got lots of family commitments, getting them to choose a shorter book would be really, really helpful. Reading is the most important thing. That's kind of all I can say for that. The more we can kind of get the children to read, it improves their writing, it improves their oracy, it improves their speaking. So ideally 20 minutes at least every single night if you can. And I know that's really tricky when you're busy. But trying to get shorter books so they're still feeling successful would be really helpful, and trying to build up their reading stamina and their reading fluency. That would be really, really helpful. I've gone to the next one. It's now frozen. 1 second. So yellow books are a level 1 books. So they are anything between it's one of these sections over here. So anything between 0 and around 1.9 is the yellow book. It may be that children who are new to reading or haven't kind of not reading at 100 words a minute, so it might be a young child who's not quite secure, might be on a yellow books. And that's something that we're testing every 6 weeks. And if you feel like all these books are a little bit too easy, then ring up reception. They can have a conversation with the class teacher to see whether we can retest them to make sure that they're choosing a book level that's accurate for them. Okay, yeah, half term is next week. Thank you. So lots of children have taken home 2 books or a really chunky book or 2 chunky books because they have 2 weeks off, which is really, really exciting. Any more questions from anyone? Have I missed anything, sir? No, I think that's it. Okay. Any more burning questions? No? When are they receiving their textbooks? So they've already been going home with reading books for the last 6 weeks. So hopefully you'll have seen those in their bags. I'm not too sure what you mean by textbooks. So they just have a story, non-fiction or fiction, that they can be reading every single week. And that should be changed weekly. I think most classes are really in that habit now of changing their books every single week. But if your child comes home with the same book, then please let reception know and we can pass it on to the class teacher and they can make sure that everybody has got the books that they need, because reading is the most important thing. I'm biased. I love it. Homework books. Homework books are still, they're coming, they're still on order. I'm so sorry, with lockdown and backlog of orders, it still means that we are still waiting for their homework books, but they are coming. Homework has already been set, a few bits of homework have been set on Purple Mash. So if you can try and log on to Purple Mash and kind of get involved that way until then. And when homework books come, then I promise they'll be straight out to you. But until then, we've got lots of reading to do, please. Thank you. When are the children coming back after half term? Monday, the 2nd of November is our first day back. So they have 2 weeks to read lots of stories. Thank you, Lisa, for saying it's been wonderful. Reading is wonderful. Our big boss, our executive principal, has just said, while we're waiting for homework books, we'll try and set some more online homework. Okay, any more questions? I think that's probably it. Does reading on his, okay, right. So if your child has read a book from home, then they could always check. There's a book, a website called the AR Book Finder, which you can type into Google, and they could quiz. If they wanted to bring their book in from home, they could quiz. I think with, as long as they keep it to themselves in their bag, then it should be fine with COVID, as long as they're not sharing it with their friends. And if you check if it's on AR Book Finder, then you can see whether, and maybe they could do an additional quiz. That would be great. And if you check your bookshelves at home, guaranteed there'll be lots of books that are on the AR system. So that would be really, really exciting if you could do that. Maybe that's something we can promote for the children. That would be really great. Okay, right. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. If you have any more questions, then please stay behind afterwards. If you want to log off, then feel free to do so. Go and enjoy your evening. Sharon Rose, thank you for having me. Thank you for being here and putting up with us. So feel free to leave, or if you want to stay behind and ask me any more questions, then I'll be here for the next few minutes or so. Yeah, no problem. It's so funny with Zooms, they're so hard. I'm so used to presenting to a whole room of people. It's completely different when it's a computer screen.
The yellow books, year 2, does it mean it's the least?
It just means that they're reading at an age which is appropriate for them. So it's the very start of their reading journey, and it means as soon as they're ready to progress onto level 2, level 3, etc. But everybody has to start somewhere, and we don't want to talk about it kind of being more as most and least, because it's just so important that each child feels empowered to read something that they're capable of reading. So if they're taking a book called iCity and they're getting 100%, then that's wonderful. And the more they read, the more fluent they'll become, and then that means the more confident they will be with their reading. It's the best thing to do to support children is to be full of praise when it comes to their reading, and try not think about it as a grid and a scale and it's the bottom and the top, because it's really not. It's a journey. Reading records. So nobody has reading records that are off the read writing program. So year 1 and 2 still have them. The reason for that is because AR tracks the amount that children are reading every single week. So our expectation now is that every child reads 1 book a week, regardless of their reading level. So it could be a book like this, or it could be something that looks like this. So the expectation is a book a week. So nobody will have reading records. They're a piece of paper that go to and from in book bags. And now you've got Home Connect, you're going to be able to connect with that at school and see in real time what your children are choosing to read at school.
Sharon's asking about year 2 and she confuses they're getting books more than once a week.
Okay. So yes, for year 2 children, you will maybe getting books more regularly because their books are much shorter, because they're very, very in the infancy of their reading journey. So it might be that they're getting 2 or more books a week, depending on their book bag books, which are linked to their read writing program. So why do some children change every 3 days and some every week? Yeah, it's just the length of the book. We just want to get the children reading as many words as they can. We might also recommend children who are reading a level 1 might take 2 or 3 different books and do 2 or 3 different quizzes. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, any questions are absolutely fine. I'll try my best. If not, Mr. Shepherd will know the answer.